They came without warning, streaking across the skies like silver daggers slicing the heavens open. Humanity had stared into the stars for centuries, dreaming of peace, of neighbors, of diplomacy. What we got was conquest. The first cities to fall were reduced to ash in seconds. Towering monoliths of steel and glass crumbled like sandcastles under artillery fire from above. Civilians were vaporized mid-step, their lives erased without a name or moment of recognition. The invaders weren't curious. They weren't here to talk. They were here to rule. The United Earth Coalition, so proud, so disorganized, scrambled to respond. Their satellites were hacked, orbital stations gutted by coordinated strike. The moon outposts? Gone. Entire military bases blinked off the map. Billions watched in stunned silence as our defense grid folded in hours. Their technology was decades ahead. Maybe more. Plasma weaponry, neural dampeners, atmospheric disruption. Nothing we had came close. And yet, they made one mistake. They assumed we would break. They believed fear would be enough. What they didn't understand, what they couldn't understand, was that humanity was never built to kneel. The survivors of New Tokyo didn't wait for orders. They salvaged what they could from wreckage, turned civilian railguns into anti-aircraft cannons. In Mumbai, a hospital team barricaded the streets, converting abandoned ambulances into mobile command centers. Across Africa, resistance groups that had fought each other for generations suddenly shared weapons, strategies, blood. The instinct for war, buried beneath layers of global peace, surfaced like a long-dormant volcano. This wasn't defense. It was defiance. First contact was a massacre. The alien patrol that landed near the Appalachian Red Zone expected scattered resistance. They got ambushed. Human fighters emerged from snowbanks, wielding jury-rigged tech fused with alien parts torn from crashed craft. The skies turned red with burning oxygen, tracer fire, and the unexpected, human victory. They killed a squad. Then two. Then six. Not cleanly. Not quickly. But completely. By week 2, the invaders started deploying ground enforcers. Tall, bipedal brutes encased in armor that shimmered with refractive plating. Standard ballistics did nothing. But humans adapted fast. A small group in Lagos discovered that microwave bursts from satellite dishes could fry their systems. In Detroit, a high school physics teacher reverse-engineered a frequency jammer from a guitar amp and drone parts. It paralyzed a juggernaut long enough for resistance fighters to crack it open with industrial drills. The learning curve was brutal. Every victory was painted in blood. But we were learning. And then came the turning point. A captured broadcast signal from the enemy command fleet revealed a fatal weakness: centralized neural coordination. Their entire battle network operated on a shared consciousness web, transmitting commands, tactics, and reflexes through quantum entanglement. Sever the node, sever the flow. The UEC reactivated old blacksite labs, filled them with the best minds left breathing. Hackers from collapsed corporations, rogue AI developers, ex-cyber criminals. They built a virus, not digital but resonant. A frequency bomb. Its first test came during the siege of Paris. The alien fleet blanketed the sky, thousands of drones forming a mechanical storm above the Eiffel ruins. Ground forces pushed into the catacombs, flushing out refugees. The resistance detonated the frequency bomb from an underground vault. A moment of silence. Then chaos. Ships spiraled, drones collapsed midair, and invaders screamed in a guttural code before dropping dead. One pulse. One ripple through the web. A chink in the invincible armor. The news spread fast. Resistance became organized insurgency. We no longer fought to survive. We fought to win. But even then, we were still reacting. The first real offensive came from a place no one expected, an orbital debris ring, the graveyard of early space tech. Among floating wreckage, old shuttle husks, and frozen corpses, a cluster of engineers and ex-military built something new. A ship. Not massive, not sleek, but fast. Cloaked in scrap, powered by alien cores scavenged from fallen ships, armed with rail weaponry designed to crack starships. They called it the Thorn. Its maiden mission was suicide, an attack run on an enemy supply nexus orbiting Saturn. But it made it, slipped past sensors, docked like a drifting corpse, and detonated a payload in the main spinal corridor. The explosion wasn't the true weapon. It was the message. You are not safe. Not in orbit. Not in deep space. Not above a species that refuses extinction. After Saturn, things escalated. The invaders deployed their elite, the Cythery. Silent, clad in armor that shimmered like glass, they walked through gunfire, melted steel with touch, and bent gravity around them. Psychic warfare. Reality distortion. Dozens of resistance fighters died screaming without a scratch on their bodies. No bullets worked. No blades found flesh. Until someone figured it out. An immunologist in Rio noticed something odd. Cythery avoided the infected. Not disease-infected. Radiation-infected. Specifically, particles found near Chernobyl. It wasn't the radiation itself. It was the decay frequency. Certain isotopes interfered with the Cythery neural pathways. Resistance teams turned abandoned nuclear sites into baited traps. Shielded bunkers in Pripyat, Fukushima, and Nevada became sanctuaries. We turned our poison into power. The first Cythery corpse was dissected by a former trauma surgeon in a gutted subway. Inside, they found cyber-organic implants, biological tissue braided with alien machine code. They weren't born. They were built. The implications were monstrous. These gods were just tools. Manufactured monsters. It galvanized the planet. No one wanted to be ruled by manufactured monsters. Cities turned into fortresses. Forests hid guerrilla networks. Oceans became battlegrounds. We took their fallen and stripped them clean. Every enemy ship shot down became a treasure trove. Every weapon recovered, a blueprint. Human scientists didn't need to match them. They needed to understand them enough to bend their tech to our madness. We didn't aim for elegance. We aimed for effectiveness. Duct-taped death machines, energy rifles spliced with drill batteries, AI command bots running on modified gaming consoles. Crude. Ugly. Devastating. Humanity weaponized desperation. And still, the invaders kept coming. That's when we found him, or it. The architect. Buried beneath the remains of the Vatican, shielded in a gravity pocket no human sensors could breach, lay the first controller. Not a general. Not a soldier. A planner. It had been there for centuries. Observing. Recording. Preparing. It hadn't attacked. It had guided. The invasion wasn't sudden. It was the final move in a centuries-long game. But it made a mistake. It underestimated belief. The team that breached its chamber wasn't made of elite soldiers. They were priests. Historians. Linguists. The architect tried to speak in symbols, in prophecy, in fate. One historian laughed. You're not a god. You're just a coward with a plan. They tore it apart. Not physically. Philosophically. They exposed the architect's origin, a failed species that had uploaded its consciousness into crystalline AI matrices after burning their world. They had invaded not out of dominance, but desperation. They needed Earth to survive. They chose conquest over conversation. They answered our message with escalation. Within days, the enemy's second wave arrived. Larger, colder, more calculated. They no longer deployed scattered patrols or intimidation squads. They brought siege fleets, the kind that had hollowed out planets across other galaxies. Monstrous carriers darkened the skies, blotting out stars. Orbital suppression grids fired without pause. The air itself trembled as the fabric of space warped under the weight of their presence. But we were no longer a scattered resistance. We had become an organized war machine. Earth wasn't a battlefield. It was a forge. Every ruined city became a production center. Every fallen soldier's weapon was passed forward, upgraded, repurposed. The enemy's strategy was annihilation. Ours was adaptation. We didn't match them in numbers, firepower, or precision. We overwhelmed them with unpredictability. They couldn't anticipate tactics that changed every hour, or human squads that used chaos as a weapon. The orbital bombardments failed to break us. Instead, they revealed their limitations. For every crater they created, 1,000 tunnels expanded. Humanity moved underground, underwater, into mobile platforms that constantly shifted positions. Cities on the move, bases disguised as ruins, bunkers carved inside mountain ranges. Our infrastructure adapted. Solar collectors were hidden in canyons, power relays disguised as broken monuments. Human ingenuity fused with alien scrap created miracles in shadows. Our first true counterstrike wasn't loud. It was surgical. The Hammer Protocol, devised by a think tank hidden beneath Antarctica, deployed nanite swarms programmed to infiltrate enemy command ships through residual heat trails. They didn't destroy. They recorded, transmitted, mapped the entire fleet. Weaknesses, supply lines, tactical rhythms. Once uploaded, human forces targeted gaps in real time. For every fleet movement, we had an answer. In North America, former engineers rebuilt ancient missile silos into rail launchers that fired kinetic warheads at orbital speed. These crude projectiles punched holes through ship hulls that had never been tested against such brutality. In Europe, quantum-entangled communication networks synchronized continental defenses. In Asia, experimental energy weapons were field-tested live. Some failed catastrophically. Others turned the tide. The psychological warfare began next. Humans flooded enemy frequencies with corrupted logic loops, music, random emotional surges. It wasn't meant to confuse the invaders. It was meant to unnerve them. These conquerors weren't immune to emotion. They had simply buried it. Humans unearthed it. A single melody, the sound of children laughing, or an old Earth song caused disruptions in their rank. Some froze. Others became erratic. Whatever they were, they hadn't prepared for joy as a weapon. And then came our expansion. Mars, previously shattered during early skirmishes, was reactivated as a launch point. Human bases tunneled beneath the rusted soil, converting alien wreckage into fuel production and drone factories. Venus' atmosphere, lethal to our kind, was harnessed as a bioshield for stealth labs. The asteroid belt became our highway, ships hidden in shadows, slingshotting around gravitational nodes to strike and vanish. Earth was no longer the last stand. It was the central command. The Galactic Council, previously silent observers, finally responded. They had watched humanity be tested. They assumed we'd fall. Now, they feared what we were becoming. They offered mediation. We declined. They threatened sanctions. We laughed. They sent emissaries cloaked in neutrality, offering peace if we surrendered all alien tech and dismantled our new fleet. One was publicly disassembled and shipped back, piece by piece, with a note, "We've already paid for peace. Now, we're collecting interest." The enemy changed tactics again. Biowar. They unleashed spores designed to rewrite DNA, turn humans into husks. It devastated parts of South America and Southeast Asia, until immune researchers discovered the spores couldn't survive in fermented environments. Entire regions began producing alcohol vapor clouds around settlements. It worked. Humanity weaponized breweries. In retaliation, we engineered viral code that piggybacked on their neural net. Every drone that connected to their shared grid began broadcasting images of Earth's ruins, not to mourn but to taunt. Videos of human children painting over craters, old men playing chess on shattered tanks, love letters etched into fallen armor. The enemy called us unstable. We took it as a compliment. The Sithri returned, re-engineered, shielded from radiation, cloaked in psionic veils. But they still had minds. And minds could be broken. The Ghostwave project was launched. Ex-hypnotists, deep dream AI, and neurosensory hackers designed auditory and visual overload pulses. Sithri squads dropped mid-charge, screaming at nothing, firing at shadows. Entire platoons wiped themselves out. Every victory we took, we broadcasted. Not to gloat, but to warn. This was no longer about Earth. Humanity was aiming beyond. We built carriers, real ones, miles long, grown from a fusion of living metal and AI-assisted architecture. Each one a mobile civilization, names etched in alloy: vengeance, resilience, homebound. We sent one past the solar rim, not to flee but to expand. A statement. We wouldn't just survive. We would thrive. In every direction, the enemy began to fracture. Subfactions emerged, those who believed in continued war, and those who feared where it was leading. Some defected. We welcomed them conditionally. Not with trust, with test. Loyalty wasn't enough. Proof was mandatory. One commander turned over fleet schematic. In return, we gave her a seat at a war table. Not at the head. At the side. Enough to speak. Not enough to lead. A new generation rose from the ashes. Children born underground, raised on stories of fire and stars. They weren't afraid. They were impatient. Teenagers built fusion cannons from spare engine coils. Schools taught alien languages alongside Earth history. Humanity wasn't just recovering. It was mutating. Becoming something new. Something vast. And yet, even in growth, we remembered. Every strategy room held memorial walls. Every celebration was tempered by silence for the lost. Humanity carried its grief like armor. Every loss etched into metal, data, memory. Not forgotten. Not forgiven. Just acknowledged. By year 3, Earth wasn't isolated. It was allied. Species once hiding in shadows reached out. Silent neighbors in the galactic dark, inspired by the roar of defiance. Some offered tech. Others offered troops. A few just wanted to watch us win. We didn't discriminate. Every ally was vetted. Every gift tested. We had learned. The final battle for the outer Earth perimeter was not marked by scale, but by strategy. We used everything. Hacked weather satellites triggered artificial hurricanes to disrupt land assault. Holographic decoys disguised real ship movements. A fake retreat pulled the enemy into a triple-crossed ambush. Hours later, only wreckage remained. When we transmitted our victory, we said nothing. Just an image, a single human boot pressed into alien metal, with one word scratched beneath it: ours. Humanity didn't wait for surrender. By the 4th year, Earth's orbit was no longer a defensive shell but a staging ground. The orbital ring, once theoretical, now forged in lunar steel, held docking bays, rail launchers, and refineries. Civilian modules rotated beside war platforms. We weren't just holding territory. We were exporting revolution. First came the liberation protocols. Planets under enemy occupation received encrypted bursts containing tactical AI advisors. Not instructions, education. We didn't dictate revolts. We gave them tools. Local uprisings began not with weapons, but with sabotage. Communication towers reprogrammed to broadcast resistance messages. Energy distribution rerouted to hospitals instead of barracks. On more than one world, enemy generals were assassinated by their own defecting bodyguard. Humanity's message wasn't loud. It was precise. Fight back and we'll help. Stay down and we'll forget you. On the moons of Ithra, the population used our schematics to build cloaked transports from mining rig. They launched at night, dropping improvised bombs into enemy hangars. We didn't claim credit. The people of Ithra did. And they renamed their capital, New Providence. In the shattered colonies of Delta Vorn, we dropped supply caches hidden in asteroid clusters. They built resistance cells from food shipments and signal beacons. Not soldiers, symbols. Our fleets grew teeth. No longer jury-rigged defense craft, but full-fledged dreadnoughts. Carriers bristled with railguns and magnetolances. Escort cruisers operated with independent AI cores, learning in real time. Every engagement refined doctrine. Losses decreased. Efficiency rose. Enemy fleets learned to fear not just our weapons, but our patterns. We struck when they felt safest. We vanished when they rallied. Our leaders weren't decorated heroes. They were analysts, engineers, field operatives turned admirals through merit and sheer survival. When the High Warden of the Outer Spiral demanded a parley, we sent a single envoy, an unarmed veteran whose only armor was a scorched trench coat. He didn't negotiate. He read a list. Worlds burned, civilians executed, treaties broken. He ended with a single line: "We're not here for apologies. We're here for an end." The warden never returned. His command ship self-destructed a week later. The enemy called it honor. We called it cleanup. We approached neutral territories differently. Not with pressure, but proof. We let them observe our rehabilitated systems. Cities where AI and human lived symbiotically. Starships captained by consensus, not decree. Trade routes enforced by mutual protection, not tariff. And when neutral worlds asked how we did it, we answered simply: we learned from pain. You can too. The Galactic Council issued another warning. This time they used force. A blockade of Earth's outer trade corridors, enforced by a multinational fleet. They expected compliance. They received silence. 3 days later, our Black Ops wing triggered cascade failures in their propulsion systems. No ships were destroyed. But every single one drifted for hours, impotent, humiliated. We transmitted coordinates for tow assistance, followed by a warning: you may observe. You may learn. You will not interfere. The enemy's core worlds began to falter. Refugees flooded border systems, fleeing collapsing logistics. Their empire had stretched wide, but it hadn't anticipated a foe that spread ideas faster than troop. Humanity wasn't colonizing. It was seeding insurgency. Every fallen city birthed a dozen revolt. Every failed purge created martyrs. Information, not domination, became our sharpest blade. We built the Arcforge, a mobile fabrication world, the size of a small moon, powered by a synthetic star core. It constructed everything: drones, habitats, war engines, terraforming nodes. It moved through space like a silent god, accompanied by defensive swarms and gravitational shields. Not even the enemy dared approach. It wasn't a weapon. It was inevitability. Where it traveled, reclamation followed. In the ruins of former battlefields, we returned to rebuild. Not for optics. For continuity. We repaired alien infrastructure. We installed interspecies schools. We converted wreckage into housing. And when they asked why, we responded: because this is what comes after war. You destroy to win. We build to survive. By year 5, humanity no longer answered threat. We issued terms. The remaining factions were given ultimatums: withdraw, disarm, or be erased. Some resisted. They were dismantled with surgical precision. Others surrendered. We didn't parade them. We reprogrammed their machines, offered psychological repair protocols, and allowed them one chance. No second offers. The message was simple: redemption is possible, but not begged for. It must be earned. We launched the Stellar Concord. Not a government, not an empire. A pact. Dozens of species, bound not by allegiance but by agreement. To never allow central power unchecked. To enforce mutual aid. To share survival tactics. Humanity was not at its head. We were its reminder: what happens when you push a species too far. The enemy's final stronghold lay within the Helix Nebula. Fortress worlds, defensive rings, mind-linked command spires. They believed themselves untouchable. We didn't assault them. We infiltrated their chain of command, broadcast their secrets to their own troop. Discipline collapsed. Factions turned on each other. We arrived not as invaders, but as witnesses. When the final signal was sent, they had already surrendered to themselves. We did not destroy their archives. We preserved them. Every atrocity recorded. Every act of defiance memorialized. Future generations would know who we were. Who they were. And what had changed. On Earth, peace didn't return. It evolved. A state of vigilance, collaboration, and watchfulness. Our military didn't disband, it transformed. from force to framework, from command to counsel. Veterans became instructors, engineers, diplomats. Children were taught the cost of silence and the value of defiance. Art flourished beside science. Philosophy debated tactics. The scars remained, but they became maps. One by one, other galaxies took notice. Not of our weapons, but our resilience. 1,000 dormant rebellions sent feelers. We didn't promise victory. We promised knowledge, shared tech, shared stories. We gave them the choice we were never offered. The final act wasn't conquest. It was departure. The first intergalactic expedition launched not for war, but for exploration. We left behind beacons, not flags. No claims. Just messages. We are humanity. We endured. We advance. We arrive in peace, but we remember. And when the stars shifted, when distant civilizations first detected our signature, they didn't ask what we wanted. They asked what had tried to stop us and failed.